Hey everybody, MrFlavorsmith here, and today we're going to do something I've wanted to try for a long time. We are going to do a brisket knockoff. It's a chuck roast, otherwise known as a poor man's brisket. This cut of meat you might be familiar with because your grandmother probably served it, cooked it low and slow, and that's exactly how this piece of meat needs to be cooked. We have two very decent sized chuck roasts that we're actually going to cook today. We're going to put a really delicious rub on there. We're going to cook it low and slow with a B&B charcoal 2x1 charcoal snake on our 22-inch Weber Kettle grill. We're also going to use a Weber brand chunks of pecan wood. Pecan goes really good with brisket, and this is very similar to a brisket, so we're going to cook it exactly the same. We're going to use the same type of wood that we would use on a brisket. It could be oak, it could be pecan, it could be hickory, something that really enhances that nice, hearty, beefy flavor. We're going to set up the Weber grill for a low and slow, like I said, so I have kind of a unique way that I like to do it that gets me really decent results. I'm shooting for a temperature range of about 250. I'm probably going to go a little bit higher to like 275 from time to time just because I don't have all day to do this. So I don't want to push it too much. I like to cook it at a lower temperature and slower because it helps that all that intramuscular fat really render down and make this super, super tender. But we're on a time schedule here and I got to pick up the kids at the end of the day and be a dad. So let's get this grill set up. Okay, first things first, take the lid off. Let's remove the grill. This is a large Vortex style coal basket. I believe this one's made by Only Fire, but we're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna invert it this way. We are gonna wrap our 2x1 B&B charcoal snake around this. We're gonna try and cook this for about 6 hours, and so if we do this, it'll get us everything we need. We'll stack it right up there and we'll move it all the way around just like this. And then on top of that, I use this 20-inch carbon steel pan as a heat diffuser. So the heat will come up around the pan and it'll prevent a lot of burning on here. So we can keep our meat nice and protected and get that smoky flavor without too much char on there. I've used this before many a times and I really love the way this works. Right now, we're gonna wrap it all up in foil just so the cleanup's a little bit easier. Okay, and we don't want to really affect the airflow, so we want to make sure our foil is just here to help us on the cleanup afterwards. So it's just catching the drippings. So we don't want the foil to get in the way of the airflow, so we like to bring up this back. We're just worried about the rendered fat that's going to be coming off of there landing onto here, and I don't want it burning onto here and sticking on the pan itself, so I'm okay with it on the foil. So that's all we're doing. We're just catching the drippings right there. We're going to go just like that. So now the hot air will still be able to come up all around. And like I said before, we're using the B&B charcoal. I love this stuff. This is called the competition charcoal briquette with oak. So with the oak flavor that's on there and using the Weber pecan wood chunks, it's gonna give us the flavor profiles that we're targeting today. This stuff is amazing because it just burns consistent and it stacks really, really nicely. And I'll show you that in a second. All right, let's get to building the snake. Take this out. What's really nice about the B&B is its shape, okay? It's more of a box shape, square. So we're able to actually put two of these vertically. We like to stack them vertically so they butt right up next to each other, so it looks like this. They're just gonna stack right up next to each other. And we're just gonna do this all the way around the inside of the kettle. So we're doing two side by side, and then we're stacking them right on top of each other, standing up. And then we're gonna put one on top between the two, like a little pyramid. And because it has this square shape, it allows us to get tight together. A lot of briquettes have more of a pillow shape to them, so you can't get good contact from one to another. This will allow the heat to transfer through from briquette to briquette, and hopefully we don't have any burnouts. And it just keeps consistent the entire time. Let's start stacking. All right, and then what we're left with is this inner piece right here, which we are actually gonna put our wood chunks on. So done right, this 2x1 stack should give us probably around 8 hours of cook time on there. You wanna make sure that you don't completely close the circle, because then what'll happen is when you light one section, it'll just burn both ways. So we're gonna light this side and it's gonna burn all the way around this way until it dies out at the end. We might not need the full length there. So now we're gonna open up the Weber pecan and we're gonna put our wood chunks there. I like it to be nice and smoky, so I put them right up next to each other. That's good enough, because once we get to around right here, we're gonna wrap it up in butcher paper, and this will just be for cooking temperature. Now let's put our inverted conical. Okay, so if you use a standard size vortex, this is really good. On this one's a little bit larger in size. It's not your standard size vortex, because it's really meant to be used upside down with a water trough in here. And I usually use it for lump coal. But when I do this, it really limits the amount of space you're able to do. So just make sure that before you start in your lighting process that you can get that to fit good. And put your wood chips back on, because you might need to move things around a little bit. All right, let's see what it looks like. Let's try everything out first before you light anything on fire. And this is usually the water trough that I use, and what I do is I just kind of move it around, you know, every couple of hours using my tongs, and I just kind of shift it around, top it off. But I want to make sure that the bark on this is like nice and kind of crispy. I don't want it to be too moist, so I'm just going to spritz when needed. So we're not going to use the water trough today. Everything looks good here. I'll show you now. See how you can see everything right underneath. That's where the hot air is going to come up through and cook. So we just make sure that our foil on our drip pan is just pushed back. That way we've got good airflow. And now let's get to lighting this. Take this out. We're going to use a tumbleweed and a torch. All right, let's open up our bottom vent all the way. That way we know it's gonna get going good. Let's get our inverted vortex in place, just like that. Get our heat diffusion pan in place. Just making sure that, like I said, we have all the foil out of the way. Then we're gonna put this Only Fire combo rotisserie ring. It's a rotisserie ring and a pizza ring combo. What this does is this just allows us to extend everything a little bit higher. So we're gonna put our cooking grate on top here now, just like so. And now our meat's gonna sit right here, right in the center. So let's close it up and let her start getting the temperature. Open up the vent. Let those coals get really nice and hot and get that snake going. Now it's time to put the rub all over these awesome chuck roasts. All right, here they are. Look at those beautiful chuck roasts. So these are boneless chuck roasts. This one's probably closer to 4 pounds, and I would say this one's probably around 2 pounds. I have a little over 6.19 pounds of chuck roast here. So they look really good. As you can see on this one especially, we have a bunch of intramuscular fat that's in there, so that should render down really nicely. This one does as well. So let's put the rub on here. Now I'm not doing a binder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a little bit of granulated garlic. And I'm just going to put this on there just like this. All the way around as best as I can. And then I'm going to put some kosher salt on there. And I didn't use a binder on this, and I don't feel I need to. I kind of want it to be a little bit drier. So just hopefully everything sticks good on here right now. Since these are such thick pieces of meat, you really want to, you know, be gracious with your rub. Okay, put on some onion powder. And then we're gonna put on some coarse ground black pepper. I like the coarse, it's a little bit thicker. And then we're just gonna really kind of like pat it in there. And then we're gonna shift it all on one side. Actually, we'll just flip it over completely right now and do the underside. And we're gonna do the same thing, and I'm gonna start with the pepper this time because I really want that pepper to stick good on there. We like a lot of pepper in our family. And we're gonna put some of the garlic, granulated garlic on there. And we're gonna do some more kosher salt. We're gonna do some more onion powder. Grab the sides and do the same thing. It's looking pretty good. I'm just gonna dip the ends in there and try and pick up some of that. All right, we're gonna let the salt do its thing for a second. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna kind of make it a little glossy on the outside, suck some of that moisture out, and then we're gonna put something else on, so we'll be right back. All right, while we're waiting, as you can see, we are smoking on the Weber 22 with the Only Fire extension ring. This system works really good. I use this all the time. I love it. Just gives me more room. Let's check out and see what our temperature is reading inside there. Ooh, it's not very hot. Looks like we're only reading around 150. I see smoke happening. So we're okay. It'll come up to temperature. All right, the last thing I'm gonna put on here is my secret weapon. It's a rub that I've been working on for a while now. It has a bunch of yummy stuff in there, and so it's gonna add a really good bold flavor to everything and also give us some really nice color. So let's apply that now. And this is what I call flavor stacking. We're combining just a whole bunch of goodness on here. Put that in there nice and good. Let's turn it over. Do the same thing on the other side. You see that nice orange color? Orange, it's gonna be nice and red, orange, yellow tint. Man, it's gonna be flavorful. All right, I've just used up all my secret stuff. Let's just try and grab everything we can. Those are two really well seasoned, rubbed down. That's gonna be delicious. Let's get them on. All right, it's coming up. We're at about 175 right now. It's smoking nicely, as you can see. I think I want to put this beautiful beast right here. And then this beautiful beast right here. Just like that. Actually, more like this. Right there. Perfect. Let's close it up. We're gonna put our vent away from the main fire source right here. We're just gonna let that get going. I'm gonna get my thermometers out and we're gonna probe it. Time isn't that big of a deal when you're cooking like this. What's the big deal is temperature. So we're gonna use just a series of a couple different things. This is a very affordable temperature probe, nothing crazy fancy. The nicer ones are definitely worth the money, but you just need to have something basic if you're out. Then we're also gonna use a transmitter with some hard-lined ones that we're gonna wire up inside both of the chuck roasts. And then this is our remote, so it's our receiver. So we'll be able to sit inside and see everything perfectly fine, see what our temperatures are like. So let me get another temperature probe out. We'll do this. We'll say number one. Let's turn this on. I use this all the time. Hopefully the batteries aren't dead. Probe number one is gonna be for our big one. Probe number two is going to be for our small piece of meat. And probe number three is going to be for our ambient temperature. We are gonna stick this one with this little grill holder, and it's gonna clamp right in the grill for our ambient temperature, right at the meat level. Let's just do some organizing real quick. If you haven't already seen the value in wireless, here it is. All right, let's open this up. We're gonna move this one over just a little bit. I'm gonna stick this right in between, just like that. We're gonna do some wire management. Yet again, like I just said, if you haven't already figured out the value of wireless, here it is. All right, that's for our ambient. All right, number one is for our big meat. We are gonna stick that bad boy. I'll come at it like this. I'm gonna go real deep, right in the middle. Plug him back in. Unplug our little one. Run our cord through. I like to run them through the handle on the grill. It just helps out with better management there, with your cable management. And then this one will stick right in the center right there. Just like that. Bring our excess lines around. Okay. Put our lid back on with our vent facing away from the heat over here. Just make sure it's sitting on there just perfect, nice and sealed. There we go. We are cooking. But before any great cook officially starts, for good luck. All right, and our temperatures right now, ambient, it says it's reading 131, it's raising pretty fast, 55 internal on both the meats. All right, so we'll put this right here, just like this, so we can check it out. And then we'll turn on our receiver. All right, and there it is. Our big boy is at 55, the littler one is at 57, and our ambient's raised up to 154. It's gonna keep rising. Our official start time is, might not see that, but it's 11:05 a.m. Let's come back in 30 minutes and check on it. Check it out. We are exactly 10 minutes into it right now, and I'm very pleased to say that our ambient cook temperature is right sitting at about 230 degrees Fahrenheit. Our big piece of meat sitting at 61 degrees Fahrenheit, and our smaller piece of meat sitting at 63. So things are coming along. Now I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna watch and see if we get a real high temperature spike. And if we do, I'm gonna close the vents, because right now our top vent is fully open and our bottom vent is on its fully open mark, beyond fully open. So we're getting a lot of airflow in there. And the reason why I'm doing it is I want it to get to the temperature of about 250 degrees, if not closer to 260. So I am running out of time. I do not want to be out here doing this till 10 o'clock tonight. So we'll just keep our eye on it. Okay, so we're about 20 minutes into it, and I'm extremely happy to say we're sitting right at the 250 mark. So that's awesome for our ambient temperature, with our big one sitting at about 68 degrees Fahrenheit and our smaller one sitting at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're gonna come back in about 45 minutes, maybe a half hour, and we're gonna check and just see what it looks like on the outside, see if it's drying up or anything like that. I don't imagine it will be, but we never know. Just to let you know, what I'm doing is normally, like on a brisket, I would pull it at 165 right when it does its stall, and then I would wrap it. But on this one, we're probably gonna wait till it's about 175, pull it. Then we're gonna put some really awesome Kerrygold butter on top of it. I don't have beef tallow right now, so Kerrygold butter, I love that stuff. It just makes everything taste delicious. So we're gonna throw that on there, we're gonna wrap it, and then we're gonna stick it back in there. And the reason why I've decided to go with butcher paper over foil is I wanna make sure that I don't get too much moisture coming out of the meat and messing up that bark. So the butcher paper allows it to be a little bit drier and just gives it like just a heartier flavor, I feel. With chuck roast, sometimes if it gets too moist, it just starts tasting like pot roast. And that's not what we're after today. We're trying to do a poor man's brisket, and it's gonna be flavoricious. All right, let's come back in a little bit. All right, so as I expected it would, and I'm happy it did, got up to 280 degrees Fahrenheit ambient. The top vent is still fully open, as well as the bottom one. So we're gonna close this. And this mark right here I have marked as fully open. I have this mark as halfway open, and this mark is a quarter of the way open, and then this over here is closed. So we're gonna take this all the way down, since we got up to 280. I'm gonna put this to right here, just a quarter of the way open. And then we're gonna keep our top vent fully open for right now, and we'll do our fine tuning from there. So it's at 282 right now. I expect it's gonna take anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes for that temperature to come back down. But this is okay because I'm really running out of time. We didn't get this on till 11:05 a.m. and I don't want to be doing this late at night tonight. So I'm okay with it initially getting nice and hot like that, but we're gonna bring that temperature down now. So we're gonna check back in about 20 minutes and see what the ambient's at. All right, we're exactly an hour into it. Let's check out and see what our ambient temperature's at. 261 degrees Fahrenheit. It went down all the way to 259 and then bumped back up. So adjusting that bottom vent from fully open to 1/4 of the way open has done the job. And as you can see, we have the top vent fully open still. Our big meat to the left, probe number 1, is at 117 degrees Fahrenheit. And our smaller piece of meat to the right there, probe number 2, is at 122. So let's open it up, see what it looks like. Oh, look at that. Tell you what, it doesn't have bark yet, but it is juicy looking. It's like some of that fat is starting to render. All right. I don't even see a need right now to spray it. So we are going to put this back on. We're going to come back in a half hour at 12:30. I also wanted to show you a way to check to see where the snake burn is at. So when we started it, it was somewhere right around over here. So kind of like right in here is where I'd say it was at. But we're a little over an hour into it, so I would imagine it's right about here. So what we can do is you can take a heat gun. Let's get it on. Take this right here. We're looking at like 490, 500, moving over here 550. We go over here, we're going back down 530, 520. So I'd say somewhere right here, this is where our burn is at. And we've still got all the way around over here. So I'm pretty sure we'll get 8 hours out of that. And if you don't have a heat gun, you can really just feel, like, I feel it hot, but not super hot right there. I feel it crazy hot right there. And then I feel it a little bit cooler over there. Just don't touch the metal, but if you get close to it, you can feel it just radiating off. But a heat gun is always great to have. All right, we are 2 hours into it, and our ambient temperature is sitting at 237 degrees Fahrenheit. Our big piece of meat, probe number 1 to the left, 145 degrees Fahrenheit, jumping back and forth between 145 and 135. That's interesting. And then number 2 piece of meat, our smaller one, sitting at 147 degrees Fahrenheit. We have just a little mild bit of smoke that's rolling out right now that I'm seeing. You might not be picking that up on the camera. Let's come look over here and kind of feel where our snake might be sitting at. And see, I'm kind of thinking, without touching it, I'm just off of it. Yeah, it's cooler here, hotter here. Right there, that's right where our snake's at. Right about here. And so out of the total amount, I'd say we're pushing about 1/3 into it. Let's see what this bad boy looks like 2 hours into it. Here we go. Oh, yeah. I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, that is looking mighty flavoricious for sure. Look at that. You see how juicy that's looking? I don't even see that we're having any dry spots, really. I mean, it's a little dry right here. So that fat is rendering really good. You can see it down there on our drip pan. Just been dripping away. Let's just look at that. Oh yeah, and our smoke's coming up through the bottom there. Oh, this is looking good. All right, I'm gonna spritz it down real quick. Just in a couple spots. I'm just using water right now. I'm not using anything fancy, just water. There we go. It's looking good. All right, let's cover it back up and let it smoke. We'll check back in about another hour. All right, so we're right around 2.5 hours into our cook, and our ambient temperature has gone down to 232 degrees Fahrenheit. Our big piece of beef is sitting at about 140 degrees, and our smaller piece is at about 153 degrees. I have the top vent just partially closed, just a tiny bit, maybe about an eighth or maybe a quarter of the way, not quite. And then our bottom vent is only open a quarter of the way. So what I'm going to do now, it's on my quarter of the way mark, which is, let me get to where you can see it, right at that little dot. I'm going to move it over to the halfway mark. And so now my bottom vent's going to be open halfway. My top vent, we're going to open this back up all the way. I just want to get that heat back up there. Like I said, I don't want to be here all night. So let's see what that does in about 20 minutes to increase that temperature. All right, it's going right back up. 241. It's going to keep rising. See that smoke just coming out of there? That nice, clean smoke. All right, so we're 3 hours into it right now. And let's just see what this says. Our ambient temperatures, 262 degrees Fahrenheit. Meat number one, 153 degrees Fahrenheit. And meat number two, 154 degrees Fahrenheit. So the temperature's come up exactly the way I wanted it to, sitting at 262 degrees right now. I think it's still coming up a little bit. And that's great, because I wanted it between the 250 and like the 270-ish range. That way I could get this thing done, and it's working just perfect. So my top vent is fully open, and my bottom vent is now halfway. I'm pretty excited about this, I'm not going to lie. It's smelling pretty good, so let's check it out. I tell you what, that looks pretty awesome. Wow, look at that. Yeah. It's like, it's getting like a decent little bark kind of going there. It's not too dry. This is looking super, super tasty. Let's get a closer look real quick. Yeah, look at that. That's the small one you're seeing right there to the right. There's the big boy. I tell you what, these look amazing. I cannot wait to eat this. All right, let's close it back up and let it go another hour. All right, so we're just at 4 hours. I just want to see where we're at on our snake. So, all right, so our snake is right here in the center. And we kind of had, I would actually say center's more over this way. Yeah, that would be like center where our snake is at, because I didn't have it twisted perfect. So I'd say we're just under halfway on the burn of that snake. So we've got another easy 4 hours, 4.5 hours we could go snake. But we'll come back in one more hour and check it all out. All right, everybody, here it is, 4 hours into it, and we have an ambient temperature of 268 degrees Fahrenheit. Our big piece of meat to the left at 163 Fahrenheit, and our small piece up top there to the right, 165 Fahrenheit. All right, so we haven't opened this up in an hour, so let's check out and see what we've got. Oh my goodness. That is looking absolutely beautiful. Look how tasty that looks. It's got a bark on it. It's looking like it's really getting some good flavor. Oozing out. That fat is rendering really, really good. Oh, wow. You know, I'm not even going to spray this. I'm just going to let it just go. I'm not seeing any dry spots. Let's put this back on and maybe check it out in about half hour, 45 minutes. Woohoo! Flavoricious. All right, everybody. 5 hours. And here we are. Ambient temperature of 264 degrees Fahrenheit. And our big piece of meat sitting at 169 degrees. It's stalled out a little bit here. And our smaller piece of meat is sitting at 174 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is now time to wrap them up in butcher paper. But first, let's see what these look like. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Look at that yummy looking bark on there. That looks delicious. There's the big one. Oh, look at that. That looks so good. I am really happy with the way that these turned out so far. Yeah, look at that. Look at all that fat. It's just really rendered. You look down there, you can see our drip pan. You can see where all the fat has dropped down and it's burned onto the foil. Our snake is now kind of like over here. So we've still got a little more time. And at this point in time, we're going to wrap them. Look at that. That just looks so delicious. Okay, so let's wrap them with the butcher paper right now. So I'm going to get that ready. All right, so I'm using some butcher paper. This is made by Big Green Egg. I just picked this roll up this morning from my handy dandy Wildemar ware. And I'm going to cut this piece. We're looking at about 36 inches, something like that. Should be plenty for these pieces of meat. I'll do 2 of those. To be honest, we don't even need that much because they're not super big pieces. Those pieces of meat, I imagine, are going to be pretty hot. So I'm going to put my cotton gloves on. These are going to prevent me from burning myself. The fun part, trying to put my nitrate gloves on over the top. And these will prevent me from getting super, super dirty. And hopefully I can get another use out of the cotton ones. But they're not really expensive. A bunch of different manufacturers make these white cotton gloves. Buy them on Amazon. You can buy them at Harbor Freight. You can buy them just about anywhere. All right, here we go. You can't see this, so I'm just going to walk you through it. Just taking the hood off. I'm pulling out probe for both these pieces of meat. I'm going to, since these things are so juicy. Oh yeah, look at that. Since they are so juicy, I am not even going to put butter on them or like I was going to. So this is what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and wrap this as tight as I can for one wrap, just like that. And then now I'll bring this down. And I'll take these pieces and I will fold this in all the way down. Since the holidays are coming, it's like wrapping Christmas presents. And then from there, I will take it. I will wrap it like that, one over. And then I will take this tail end and I will bring it back into it, just like that. And there we go. And then now I'm going to place this back on the grill. I'm going to do the same thing with this next piece. Next piece is a little smaller. It's really cooked down. Boy, does it look tasty too. All right. Same thing again. I'm going to wrap it like this. I'm going to wrap it over this. That like this. Like this. And then like this. And then I'm going to wrap it over like this. Have that like this. And then back under over here. All right. Just like that. Put them back on. All right, now we'll put the heat probes back in. Just make sure I have everything correct. Yes. So we're gonna stick this in there just like this. We're gonna go right in the center. Just like that again. Make sure all that's out of the way. Close her back up and continue cooking. So we're looking for a temperature, a finish end temperature of about 195 to right around 198, maybe 200. If we get above 200, it's gonna get a little mushy. Below in the like 180 range, and especially the mid to lower 180 range, it's still gonna be kind of tough, especially if you get close to 170, but we're already past that. I only imagine we're gonna have maximum another hour on this, because when we open this up, just as we just did, it's gonna boost the temperature on the charcoal. And so for the next 20 minutes, it's gonna probably run a little hot. I think we're gonna be right to temperature more than likely within 45 minutes from right now. And it is 4:09 right now. All right, the time has come. We're sitting at 288. I opened it up a little bit on the bottom vent and then just kind of shifted my little fins back and forth to get some of the ash out of there to really open that up so it could breathe a little bit. I did that for about 10 minutes and it boosted up to this 288 and sat there for a couple of minutes right around that range. And then I kind of closed it back up just a little bit and it boosted up our big piece of meat to where it's ready now. And it's sitting at an internal temperature of 198. So we're gonna pull that, we're gonna stick it in the cooler, and we're gonna let that start to cool off and do its thing, while our other one, which is actually our smaller one, it kind of has been sitting at 187 for a little while now. I wanna get it to at least like 191 before we pull that one. So let's pull them now. Pull the big one anyway. Unless I got my cords mixed up, which I don't think I did. No? All right. So that is the one we are gonna pull. Okay, so we'll pull this. Ooh, and that is nice and tender. Yeah, that is ready. Okay, we'll stick this in our cooler. This is just a little soft cooler. It's an Arctic. I use all of their products, always have. They're great from right when they got going. I've loved them. I stuck the the big Poor Mans Brisket down on the bottom there. And I'm just gonna put a towel over the top of it. I'm gonna close this up and call it good. So we're still sitting at 189. So we're gonna close this back up. I'm just gonna kind of move this a little bit more over to where the big one was at. We'll close that back up and we'll let that come back to temperature. And we're looking at probe number 2 on the right-hand side. It's sitting at right at 189 right now. Boost it up just a little bit. So we're gonna pull that in probably about 10 minutes or so. Okay, so like I said, that was 6 hours. Our big piece of meat was ready to go and start its cooling process. So we just threw that right in that little Arctic cooler I have and then threw a towel over the top of that. Now it's nice and sealed in there. But our small one didn't get to temperature yet. We still have a little bit. It's sitting at 189 degrees Fahrenheit right now. I imagine it's going to jump up pretty quick here because the ambient temperature in that went up to 307. So I kind of want it to boost. I want to get this done. I want it to get to temperature that it needs to get to, and then we're going to throw that one in the cooler and let that join the other one and start its whole cool down process, because I cannot wait to bite into this, and either can my family. We're all going nuts. It smells so amazing. We can't wait any longer. Okay, you know, I was just thinking to myself, after 6 hours, we built that snake and everything. You might want to see what it looks like, what's left. So let's check it out. Let's see if there's anything left. It's all gonna be real hot. We'll pull this off. Ooh, and look at that. That did the job perfect. That foil, when we pulled it back like that, it allowed to get the airflow just the way we want it to get. That way the meat was evenly cooked, and we're saving our carbon pan from the hard cleanup. Now this is real easy. We can just fold all this up as soon as it dries and everything, and we're good to go. Throw it out. Let's pull it out. Let's see where our snake's at. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. So we burned all the way around here. We've gotten all the way here. I mean, I was figuring we'd get about 8 hours out of it. And to be fair, we'd probably still get about 8 hours out of it. We only needed 6 today, so that worked out really good. Now here's kind of a little trick. If you don't want these to continue burning, close your bottom vent fully. close your top vent fully. Now it's gonna kill the oxygen coming into the kettle, and the coal's gonna stop burning. And whatever's left over tomorrow, make sure you check it and it's not too hot. But you can have your unburned coals. You can use it again for another cook. It's really cool. All right, so you just saw how awesome the snake method is, and that's just a 2x1. A lot of people can do a 2x2. I find all you need is a 2x1 stack. So that's 2 side by side and 1 just resting on top. That gets you a super long burn time. It really, really does. And on my next one, we're gonna do a brisket, a real brisket for the next one, but I'll set it up just a little bit differently. That way we can get a full 12-hour burn out of it if we need. Okay, the time has come. Let's see what we've got. These are still really hot. I will use my glove. Start with the bigger of the 2. Go. Look at all that juice. Oh my. Wow. That looks just insane. I'll try and keep as much of that as I can. Wow. So incredible. Look at that. That is just beautiful. So beautiful. So beautiful. I'm gonna take some photos. Now we're gonna cut it. Nice thin slices. Oh my, look at that smoke ring. Just pops right out. Oh, this smells so incredibly amazing right now. I tell you what, this might not have been a normal brisket, but this was sure a success. I can't wait to try this. We've got this end over here where it's a little more done, more like burnt ends. But let's get this all on a plate. Get this all right there. Oh, look at the bark. That's just amazing. This was such a success. Oh, it's so tender. Just amazing. Cannot wait to try this. I have our burnt ends right there. Just look at that. Oh my gosh. Still juicy. Absolutely amazing. Let's just pile this on here. Super successful. I'm gonna try and pour any juice I can over the top. A lot more juice. All right, now it's time to give it a shot. All right, try this. I'm just gonna dig in. The smoke ring on this is just insane. You know, this worked so good. Look at that. Look at that. Can you see that? How the penetration on that? I saw it from the outside. I saw there was a smoke ring that was happening, and man, did it happen. All right, now let's try it. Man, that's so good. I'm gonna put that down. That is some tasty, tasty barbecue. Woohoo! Flavoricious. Way to go, Chuck Roast. Poor man's brisket. I tell you what, I'm gonna do this all the time. Talk about finger licking good. That was so delicious. Guys, you have to do this. If you haven't done a chuck roast as a brisket, give it a shot. Let me get another piece out of this other one. Look at that smoke ring. Look at that. That's just packed full of flavor. This is super flavoricious. Hey, I tell you what, if you got any value out of this content at all, please do me a huge favor. Like and subscribe to the channel. This is going to help me out so much, produce more flavorful content for you like this in the future. And until next time, live a life of flavor.